Okay, so you're pretty good. You've been shooting for a while. Sometimes you have really, really good months, and sometimes you question why you even started this whole thing. But most importantly, you're always trying to get to that next level. I want this video to be a sounding board for you so that you know you're not alone, you know you're not the first or the last person to go through this or to feel this way. And in the next 10 minutes or so, you're gonna be even more equipped at handling this career as a whole. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Sergio and I'm a commercial photographer here in Victoria, BC. I've been shooting a little over a decade now, and one thing I've noticed is that this middle phase is a lot longer than I ever thought it would be. I want to talk about what it feels like and why you're stuck, what you should expect, and how you get to that next level. I know we're all pretty familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect at this point, and I think the vast majority of you who watch these videos have made it through that first little bump of figuring out all these little technical things and thinking you're super good and then realizing you suck. Now that you realized you suck, now we're back at the actual starting phase. After you break through that little one, then there's this huge, just like, massive middle gap area where it's like, you know things, you're probably better than most other photographers in your area, you're probably a lot more of the tech-savvy person in your little friend group. When people think of pictures, or when people are like going to an event or something, they're like, oh hey, can you bring your camera, you're the camera guy. Everyone knows you as the photographer, but that doesn't mean you're flush with cash and that everybody's throwing money at you. They just know you're the camera guy and you can take better pictures than they can, so they're like, oh, just bring your camera, you're the cool one. But how do you go from that to actually making like a full-time career, and then having a full-time career, and then actually making like a livable wage as a full-time career? You know, when I started, like, I've been shooting for over 10 years, and yeah, I was full-time back in 2014, but I was also living like in my parents' basement. I didn't have any expenses. I could make $1,000 a month, and that was more than enough that I needed for all of my expenses and all the things that I needed. So it's like, yeah, I've been doing it full time for a long time, but I've been living on my own for like 5 or 6 years or now. So it takes a while to get there. You know, you're maybe getting lucky with a couple little gigs. You're getting thrown a couple $100 every now and then, but it's not something that's very consistent. It's not something that's like worthy of a career, or at least a job, or of quitting your regular job or what have you. At this point, it's really hard to compare yourself, or to look at Instagram, or to look at anything that you see online of these people that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, and you're like, I'll never get there, I'll never do this. This is like, I'm having a hard time going from $150 to $175. I'm having a hard time booking for parking, and these people are increasing their rates by more than I've ever made in my entire career. Like, how is this happening? The people who know you are probably friends, or maybe like one connection separated from you. Those people expect friend discounts, and they expect cousin, family rates, and they don't anticipate you as being like this incredible person that does only the one thing that only you can do, and that they will seek out to reach and work with you no matter what it is. If you're that person, or the thing is, if you think you're that person, doesn't actually make you that person. There's a lot of work that you have to put in to get others to think the way that you actually think. I remember when I first started working out, there was like a thing with the gym as well, where it's like the first 3 months, only you notice the changes. And then in like the next 3 months or so, it's like your friends and family that notice. And then it's only 6 months later that people that don't know you or don't care about you are like, whoa, do you work out? Similar story with photography. You know, like anyone can get lucky. Anyone can take a shallow depth of field photo now. You just switch to portrait mode and you're a pretty good photographer. So it takes a lot to impress people and to think of you as not only the trusted camera guy. If you are the trusted camera guy, that's a good thing. If you're the person who people think of when they need a camera, or when they think of photography related things, that's a good thing. Hold on to that, and you want to do that for not just your friends. That's the thing. You want to be that person for everyone in your community. And the more you start to do that, the more you'll get those bookings that start coming in, and the more you can start charging a little bit more money. Even to this day, 10 years, 12 years into my career, I don't charge like my friends and the people around me and the people that are like one connection away from me. I don't charge them the same rate as I would just a regular person who sends me a DM, or a regular business that sends me an email. I will give them a regular rate, and then if a friend of mine or a friend of mine comes out to me and he's like, hey, can you just give me like a quick little portrait? I'll be like, yeah, sure, let's just do something for X amount of dollars. So like, don't try to charge your friends and your close connections these exorbitant rates and these like, oh, I'm trying to make a career here, like this is the value. Like, no, just use it as an experience to be like, oh wow, you trust me enough to take pictures and to pay me in order, like you trust enough that I'm going to deliver, so that you're going to pay me so that I do this thing, so the exchange of time, like that's wild. Hold on to that mentality, which brings us nicely to the second part, which is just like being grateful and being understanding of the position you're actually in. But look, I know we want more for ourselves. That's why we're in this line of work. That's why there's this, no ceiling. We got into photography because the ability or the potential or the hope or the American dream or whatever it is that you want to call it, but that ability to potentially be at the top of your game, have everything at your disposal, and get to play with toys all day. That's the dream. That doesn't happen right away unless you're someone's son or daughter or what have you. Like, you need to put that work in, you need to put that grind in until you're absolutely undeniable. And not just you, but your friends have to think that, and then the people that don't know you have to also think that. It's not like you don't reach success until the end. There is a lot of fun things that happen on the path. Even if I'm not at the top of the ladder, the actual ladder is fun. There's like a roller coaster going on. It's exciting. It's fun. You get access to so many places. You might not have all of the disposable income as your lawyer friends or as the friends that graduated from whatever college or what. Like, you might not have that ability yet, but if you want it, you can get it. You can get there. It's just don't feel like you're stuck where you are, and keep that lack of complacency as a drive to keep moving forward. You will never get the biggest job, but it's important to think about getting a bigger job than the one you have. Just keep focusing on one step in front of the next and not worrying about trying to get to the top of the mountain. The top of the mountain is boring because then there's nothing else to do. There's only a downhill slope from there. So keep climbing, keep being happy and content and grateful the fact that people are willing to give you $100, $150. Oh, next week it's maybe $175. Oh, maybe it's 3 weeks of quiet, but then you get a $250. Then you get a $275. And I don't mean that as like a 1-1-1-1. I mean that like maybe 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. Like every time you get real comfortable at asking people for $200, next time someone you don't know sends you a little DM, be like, how about $215? Who knows? Who knows? You just made an extra $15. And I know that's not much. And I know that that's not how you climb to a $10,000 day rate. But at the start and at the middle phase and at the weird little in-between, that's how you start to climb. And then you'll start to realize that the market in which you're serving has these limits and these like breaking points. And most of them, I would say, is under $500. Under $500 is everybody is kind of on a level playing field. You're competing with people who just bought their first camera. You're competing with people who have regular day rates, who are used to making $200 a day at work or $300 for a day of work for 8 hours. So they're thinking like, oh man, I'm going to charge $300 to take a couple photos. That's crazy. That's so much money. Not realizing that this is a contract job and not a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday type of job. There's, a 1-day shoot for me is a 4-day shoot for me. Okay. Like it takes a long time to create, deliver, pre-production, post-production, all that stuff. So you have to take that into consideration. But at the start and when you're first starting out, or when you're in that middle phase, or when you're like going from like 300 to 400, it's like, whoa, it's a big deal. It's a lot of money. It's like extra. It's supplemental. It's nice. It's great. But it's not what funds a business. It's not what's going to get you to that next level. I feel like there is no middle ground between that like sub $500 everybody is replaceable range and the $1 to $5 grand regular type of shooting where like you can actually kind of sustain and make a living and keep going at this career thing. I don't think there's any photographer. There isn't any photographer, at least that I know of, that shoots exclusively $200,000 campaigns. Even the Annie Leibovitz and the Art Strybers and the Dan Winters of this world that have these massive budgets and that create these very important pivotal images for these very big publications, even those people, they will only show you those highlights. If you're trying to portray your photography at a certain level, you're not going to show all of the sub-level things. But I guarantee you that all those photographers are also still shooting with their friends and their families and at the events that they go to, and that just they enjoy the fact that they're photographers. They enjoy the fact that they get to shoot. Every now and then, they land a $50,000 contract, and that pays their 6 months of living. Sure, fine, that's great. But it's not like an everyday thing. We're not making $200 a day every day. It's not a 9 to 5 job. In order to have that one shooting day, you might be planning a whole month of work. And that is plan, it is work, and it is time that it takes in order to get there. If you aren't at that 10K level or at that 5K level or what have you, you still have to perform like you are. Like if you're trying to get to that big dollar sign level, there's not a huge difference in, like there is a difference in the quality of the work. There is, it's not like there isn't, but it's not as massive as the pay discrepancy. And like, look, I don't think necessarily a $5,000 photo shoot is worth 10 times more than a $500 photo shoot. I don't know if the return on investment for a business is 10x. However, I do know that the company that's willing to spend $5,000 on that photo shoot and the photographer that's willing to command $5,000 for their photo shoot, those two clients are going to be a lot happier than those $500 ones. The $500 photographer is going to be stretching himself thin or themselves thin, and the $500 client is going to be expecting way more than that photographer can deliver, at least at that price point. Whereas at a certain level, when you can charge something that gives you the ability to give it your all and to do all of the things that you need to do in order to create the shot, whether that's rent equipment or whether that's build a set or whether that's all of those things, if you can charge appropriately in order to give yourself the time to do it properly, and if you can convince the client, it's not about making the photos 10 times better, but it's about convincing the client that you are 10 times better. It's about being like a dirty car salesman about your photography. The better you can do that, the better you can convince people that you're worth these $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 photo shoots. Sometimes that's having an agent on you. Cool, great. I've been shooting for 12 years. I've sent hundreds of cold emails to agents. Nobody's reached out. Nobody's ever cared. Maybe I'm just not good enough yet. But the thing is, that's not something that you can just rely on. It's not just because you have an agent that they're just going to book all of the shoots for you and that they're going to have all of the stuff come towards you. You still have to be the best. And you still have to be marketing yourself to all of these different places. The agent is going to help you, but they're not going to do it for you, and they're not going to just take you on if they don't think they can make money off you. They're doing a business as well. And if they're just going to charge 20% of whatever it is that you're charging, and you're charging $500, they're not going to take you on for $100 a photo shoot once a year, once a month, whatever it may be. So you can't rely on having an agent or having someone do that bidding for you. You're a photographer and you want to do this as a full-time career, well, you have to learn that business aspect. You have to learn the selling your photos as much as taking those photos. Nobody is going to charge $10,000 for the photo shoot except for you. If you want to make $10,000 or if you want to make $5,000 and you want to charge $10,000 for this photo shoot, do it. But the only thing that's going to hinder you is that now you're swimming in a different pool. You're swimming in a different ocean. Big fish in a little pond thing, but there's no great white sharks in a little pond. And if you want to swim with the big fish, you have to be ready to take on that competition, and you have to be ready to take on the responsibilities of shooting a $10,000 campaign. If you're creating things that have certain deadlines or that have certain expectations of quality or expectations of deliverables, you have to put in that effort, and you have to be able to deliver like the other people that are at that level. If you don't, you're gonna phase yourself out real quick. And trust me, it's way, 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 way better to pop or to get a huge contract later than you think it is. If you missed out on a big gig that you're like, oh man, that would have been so much money, great. That's a good thing, dude. Because in 6 months from now, when that opportunity comes back, you'll be that much better at creating those images. It's not like it's I'll never get that opportunity again. There's a million different ways to make money, and there's a million ways to find success in photography. It'll happen again. If it didn't happen yet, if you missed out on something yet, it'll come back. Don't worry about it. Just keep being persistent in photography. You're not going anywhere in photography. Those jobs will keep going too. Tell me where you are in your journey. Tell me what's your next big shoot that you want to book, or tell me a big shoot that you did just book. I'd love to learn a little bit more about who watches these videos and have a bit more of an open dialogue. Appreciate you all for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a like on your way out, and I'll see you in a couple days. Later.